All right. Welcome to the Domestic
Man.
Draft Podcast. I'm Evan Bierman here with Dan Sloak. We're going to be talking some Bears and some Bulls with a special guest in a little bit. But first, Dan, what are you drinking this week?
I'm back on hard kombucha. It's summer. Trying to be a little cleaner with what I'm putting in. And so I'm back on the hard kombucha. I saw this brand. I've never seen it before. It's called Bombucha. I've done, June Shine out here. I've done Booch Craft, which are like the very prominent hard kombucha places out here in San Diego. And I've never heard of this one. So I went ahead and did a little research. And actually, they've been making just straight regular kombucha, non-alcoholic, for a couple of years now. And just recently, about 2 years ago, they started to produce this hard kombucha. Started with limited flavors. I have the Hawaiian hibiscus. All their kombuchas are 6%, and this one got a 3.8 on Tapped. But the owners of it, they were actually chefs. So they started, international chef experience and figuring out like what flavors work well together before they got into brewing and creating and fermenting their own kombucha. So after kind of being chefs, they decided to do this business, Bombucha, had some success in the regular game of just regular kombucha. And now if you're familiar with like the craft scene and craft beer, like hard kombucha is like blowing up. It's maybe not in the Midwest, but out here in California, it's like everywhere. So they decided to go ahead and make a hard kombucha. It's actually really, really good. The difference that I'm noticing in this one is compared to other ones is sometimes when you drink a hard kombucha, it's got a lingering kind of taste in it. That doesn't really finish well. But this one's actually very light, crisp. I mean, the color is pretty good on it. It's a very like nice Hawaiian hibiscus color. The notes in it are grapefruit, orange, and lime, and it's distributed by Carl Strauss. So they got a huge backing out here in San Diego by Carl Strauss to get it over in like all 50 Bevmo locations in Southern California. So if it ever reaches out in the Midwest, I'd go ahead and pick it up. Bombucha. What about you, man? What are you drinking?
I feel like you've talked about Carl Strauss on this show too. So yeah, that's really cool. Bombucha, check it out if you see it in your local liquor store. All right, so I have Corridor Brewery and Provisions is the brewing company that I'm doing this week. It's off Southport in Lakeview in Chicago. Corridor opened in 2015. Inside, you'll find gleaming brew tanks on display behind the bar, and the walls covered with a fun and funky wallpaper. There's a large collection of vinyl records on display. Music's always on point. On Tuesdays, they even have a DJ come in to spin tracks during dinner. Brewery director Brant Dubovic's beer program consists of an ever-changing draft list with styles ranging from double dry hopped IPAs to fruited kettle sours and funk forward saisons. Corridor is actually the second brew pub from the Dry Hop Brewers team. If you know Dry Hop, they're over in East Lakeview. And
it used to be your spot.
Yeah, it is. It was right by where I used to live. But Corridor's beers are only available at the brewery in West Lakeview and to go in 32-ounce crowlers, which I have here, and 64-ounce growlers. The beer I have here is called Wizard Fight. It's a 6.2% IPA. Gets a 3.81 on Untapped. Corridor's only year-round beer, and it's brewed with Amarillo, Mosaic, and Citra hops. So you do have to come to Chicago to get it. And speaking of Chicago, we're bringing on Runback Dave to help us answer some Bears and some Bulls questions. Runback Dave is a writer for Sports Mockery and host of the Runback Pod, which is on Blue Wire Pods. You can find him on Twitter at Runback Dave. Dave, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It's finally.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. I've seen you on Twitter. You got quite the following, and see that you write for Sports Mockery. Have you always been interested in like sports media and writing about sports, or is this something you maybe just kind of fell into?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote for, high school journalism, took journalism class, really enjoyed it. So I started writing, a lot more for school. And then I kind of, like I said, I'm not much more, I don't really like the, I'm not a beat writer, I kind of like blogging. It's kind of my route, more opinionated. So something I definitely enjoy. But as far as like the podcasting scene goes, I'm getting to that finally again. So excited about that. But yeah, it's just something that I just enjoy kind of expressing my, my thoughts, and then also talking with, other fans. So just something fun.
Yeah. So the Blue Wire Pods, you mentioned before the show started that you guys just signed with Blue Wire Pods. Can you tell us about that process and, you know?
Well, I mean, it's very, I actually know I've reached out to, when they first started a couple of years ago, really small, reached out to the founder. I was like, what are you guys doing? Blue Wire, kind of heard of it. And it's a cool name, as well. So I was interested. He kind of told me what it was about, and they've grown since. Like I said, it's been 2 years. I was actually supposed to start last year with them. Some things came up with my, co-host and stuff. So kind of just put it on the back end. And then, but like I said, when I reached out to him again, he was like, absolutely. But this guy has built it from, like I said, from nothing. He has Chris Long, bunch of guys, some Fox Media people as well. They're just really, really good. And they want to kind of bring new creators, like the new creators of this generation, kind of give them that platform and just help them out in any way they can. And that's really what they do. And they've got a lot of traction, and they have a huge studio in Las Vegas now. But yeah, they're just a really good company. So if anyone's looking to, if you have a podcast and you kind of want to get some help, get started, definitely reach out to them. You can send an email, you can DM on Twitter. They're pretty, like I said, I know a couple of the other guys I could reach out to them, give them your email and stuff, but they're just amazing. And like I said, if you really are interested and you want to kind of pursue it, make a little cash on the side, definitely reach out to them because they're amazing.
Nice. Yeah, I noticed Blue Wire. I think it was Matt Peck in the Bulls podcast that was on one of their Blue Wire's Chicago Bulls podcast was, I would listen to it and I would hear like the Blue Wire intro and whatnot. It could be somebody else. But yeah, I was definitely familiar, and then I saw it tagged in your profile as well. So congrats on that. That's great. Yeah. Were you a running back? What is Runback Dave? Did you play football? Okay.
I actually, no, I was not a running back, but maybe in like middle school for like
everyone's a running back in middle school.
Yeah, in middle school, but never could have made it. Played soccer, just to have that build. But yeah, it's just the name of the podcast. So like one time I just basically switched it to it and kind of stuck. And then I've been, like I said, I wanted to do this podcast for a very long time. Just with, timing and everything, it's finally working out now. But yeah, that's just what it is. And I just haven't changed it. Also gamer tag, kind of just weird. So.
Okay. Yeah. The gamer tag for sure.
What are we playing? Is that Call of Duty?
Dude, Warzone.
Okay.
Course.
Yeah.
Warzone. I love Madden, obviously. Little Apex, not that good at that one. But yeah, definitely Call of Duty, man. Grew up Call of Duty. 2K a little bit, Madden for sure. So
all right, so find them out. Runback Dave.
Yeah, there you go. So you have a huge following on Twitter, 22,000 followers, I think. And I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, just Dan and I, we know from our own podcast trying to grow a following. It's tough. Was there anything specific that you can point to that's like, oh yeah, I definitely blew up after that moment or anything like that?
Not really. I'll just say
an article you wrote.
No, I mean, people read it, but I mean, usually they just kind of like disagree or they want to point out things, writing more just, I would say just be interactive with people, like, just if they comment back if you can. Obviously, depending on the comment, I would say just try to be interactive with people and just be genuine,
So yeah, all pretty organic then, that following. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's like I said, it's a blessing, but you say big, but man, I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's don't, you're being humble, but I mean, it is a lot. It is to grow from nothing to that is.
And then also sports mockery. I mean, sports mockery is huge. I've been with them. We started with them in 2020. Took a little bit of a break, came back. They're amazing. They've helped me grow. Obviously, if they slap a retweet from their account's huge. Yeah. That kind of helps. So like I said, just network and just like I said, just be interactive. So.
Yeah. So you're talking about like, being organic, natural, engaging with fans. We're both Bears fans, and we know what it's like to be miserable watching this team for our entire life. What is it like to engage with this fan base where it seems so like hot and cold to where like 1 week we'll have the player who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and the next week we want everybody fired and the team just completely blown up? Is it frustrating to have like an optimistic outlook? Or
to be honest, man, I feel the same way. I'm a fan. At the end of the day, that's all I really am. So I mean, when you guys are going through it, I'm going through it. Matt Nagy threw me through so many emotions over the years. And then with the Cutler era, all that. Honestly, so like I don't really take like if someone's upset 1 week. Just because I'm happy that week doesn't mean I'm not gonna be. I might be upset next week. So it's like I try to like I relate obviously because I'm a fan. Pretty passionate. I think we all are, especially if you're on Twitter and you're tweeting about your team. You know, that's an extra step. So, like I said, I kind of just go with the flow. I don't really like if someone has their opinion, it's their opinion. I don't really, like I said, now if it's a little out there, I just don't interact. You know, obviously, you know, some people believe Justin Fields a bust. Like that's, in my opinion, it's ridiculous. Like after a year of like when he had no first team reps. He was, you know, Andy Dalton was in there, Nick Foles was in there, Matt Nagy was still doing what Matt Nagy did. So it's like to label him a bust, you know, is, you know, ridiculous. But at the same time, like you can't be, you know, saying he's the answer quite yet. But he has the tools, he has the talent, you know. So as far as like the opinions that go from, you know, all the way on this spectrum to the other, I kind of just try to stay in the middle, try to be more positive because, like I said, there's a lot of negativity out there. So don't really.
Yeah. So avoid the trolls is the bottom line there, right?
Yeah.
Do your best, engage, but avoid the
No,
trolls.
I mean you can engage a little bit. It's fun sometimes.
Just poke at them.
Sure. So there was kind of a hot topic the other day about the Bears losing an OTA practice for on-field contact violations. Do you think this was something they knew was coming? Was it ignorance? I think those were kind of the two sides of it. To me, it seems like the team knew it was going to happen and they just wanted to get the guys out there and get them.
I like it.
Get that contact going early, but I don't know. What do you think?
Obviously, you got to respect the Players Association, make sure you're keeping them safe. Obviously, it's there for a reason, but I think it just boils down to it's a young roster. You like the new head coach. You know, it's a young roster. They're competitive. They're competing for spots. Nothing is really guaranteed. You know, Robert Quinn obviously is holding out a little bit right now. At least that's what it looks like. So I mean, you really have just a young, hungry roster, and they don't know if they're going to be there. You know. To start the season. So it's like with that comes a lot of like every rep they're taking very seriously. And like, obviously they're taking a little too serious, but at the same time, like I said, did the Bears kind of want this? Maybe, you know, because you can't get a lot out of like no contact, you know, so did they get more out of that one practice where they're a little bit more physical than they would if they would, you know, follow the rules to a T? Probably, you know, so obviously I don't think they're going to go on record saying like, hey, we did this on purpose. But I think they definitely pushed the limits, and that's due to the young roster, in my opinion. So I think it's a good thing, though.
Yeah, for sure. I'm cool with it as well. And I agree with you on all aspects there. I like the coach. I like that he's it's like open tryouts right now. No one's guaranteed a spot. I even think maybe all this Braxton Jones hype that we're seeing on social media and the coaching staff talking about him might just be to light a fire into some of these higher round draft picks that haven't been producing. In that offensive line, you kind of thinking the same, or you think Braxton Jones is future left tackle?
Braxton Jones is interesting. You know, I love Tevin Jenkins. I really like the pick. The issue, like with Braxton and Tevin's great, but like the physical tools, like Braxton Jones is a specimen, man. Like he has those long arms. He's built different and he's bigger. I don't know if he's stronger per se, but he's, you know, those longer arms. It's just, he's kind of built to be that left tackle. So I hope it's competitive. I hope Tevin Jenkins does give him a run. If not, maybe play right guard. But like, I hope Tevin Jenkins is the real deal because we can't really, that would be such a waste of a pick, kind of set it back just a little bit. But Braxton Jones could be a diamond in the rough. And like I said, it's still, you don't have the pads, so I'm not going to go too much to it. But from what I'm hearing, what you guys are reading, same thing for me. So I'm excited for training camp, which they released the schedule. June 7th is when tickets go out. I think it starts on the 26th of July, first open practice. Might be wrong on that. But anyways, that's when it's going to get interesting. So I think training camp this year, especially just with the young roster, like we mentioned, and then Braxton Jones, that line, it's going to be super competitive. And then if you don't have Robert Quinn and you have, depending what they get back from him, you know, that defensive line, you know, it's just going to be super young. It's going to be such a fun camp. So I like Braxton Jones, but I think I would wait just until like the end of camp, see kind of what he does with pads and stuff.
Are you going to be there at Hallis?
Yeah, I'll be there I want to be there the whole week, you know, but with my wife, everything we got planned, busy. So I'll probably be there for a couple days. And then obviously you have to get tickets.
Yeah.
Depending if, you know, SM can get us something. I'm not sure 100% on that. So, but I'll be there. I'll be there for at least
get
one.
the credentials, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about that. We'll see. I don't think so, but.
All right. So you mentioned Robert Quinn too. What do you think happens with him? Do you think he's going to get traded? I think Lambert posted an article that with the potential landing spot of Arizona, with the Bears getting back a third and Andy Isabella. Is that something that you think is possible, or is that pie in the sky kind of situation?
possible. I mean, anything's possible. We saw, there was a crazy trade back in Arizona. Arizona got Hopkins for like nothing. Obviously different. This is offense. This is Robert Quinn. He's coming off career year. I don't know. Robert Quinn's interesting. For me, I would love to have him just because, like, what are you going to get back from in return? Are you going to get something high? He's 32. He is coming off a great season, but like, what is a team willing to give up for that? Like, would it be an actual like high pick? Would it be a decent player in a pick? I don't know. So for me, helping the young defense, and those guys, and see if they can kind of just basically be that mentor. Does he want to do that as well? Like, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. So with him, it's like, if he is wanting to, and he's just taking, the OTAs, if you just want to take a little break, he deserves it. Right. But if he's not, if he is holding out and he's not going to be there at camp, then obviously you need to go ahead and try and get something for him. But my ideal situation would be to, let's help Justin out with a great defense this year. Keep Robert Quinn. He's going to help the young guys. Our secondary is already revamped.
Yeah.
Roquan Smith is Roquan Smith. I think he's going to finally be all pro, definitely Pro Bowl this year. So like I said, I think if we could keep him, great. Obviously, if not, just get the best package for him.
I think, I think that's the kind of style that we'll see this season with an upgraded defense, a meaner defense with a defensive focused head coach as well, focus on the takeaways, and then just an absolute talent at the quarterback position. And then some suspect skill players on the wide receiver room there. But with a heavy run game, we got like 4 running backs that can pound the ball. It reminds me of like the Seahawks, like early Pete Carroll, Legion of Boom, drafting Russell, having that defense and very early. Yeah. But is that kind of the style of play? Because I don't think we'll be the gadget Chiefs that we had with Nagy. I think we're going to be more towards that kind of style. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, Matt Nagy never got there for sure.
Well, never, but wanted to be. Yeah.
He definitely was interesting with some of his play calls, but I think, like you said, it's going to be simple. I think there's going to be a lot of play action. That's what Justin is. I mean, that's his bread and butter right now. As far as last year, looking at the numbers, like, I think his quarterback rating was just insane on play action, but they didn't do it nearly enough. It was like super low amount. And that kind of defines Matt Nagy. This is a guy, he's good at play action. Why didn't you do it? It's very similar to Mitch. We don't get into that, as far as like, tailoring the offense to his quarterback's, strengths. And so with the offense next year, obviously, with Darnell Mooney, who I think is very similar to Tyler Lockett, if not, I'm not even going to say it, but he's very similar to Tyler Lockett, young Tyler Lockett. He had 1,000 yards yesterday. He's building on that. He put up like 10, 15 pounds of muscle. He's fast. And then with Bellis, I think like I said, I think the Bears have young skill players, but just because they're not expensive, just because they're not big names, doesn't mean there won't be production, in my opinion. So, but the big question is the offensive line, because you got to give him time. So with that running game, like you said, we have Herbert, Montgomery, and then just running the ball, play action is definitely going to help that offense just get running in the beginning, get going. And I think with Justin, like you said, he's a very talented quarterback. I think, what we've heard is, he's hardworking. He's put a lot of time in. And so in my opinion, I believe in Justin. So I think he's going to elevate this roster. You saw what, Watson did in Houston, very young. I know it's a very hard topic to talk about, but what he did with nothing, some quarterbacks that are just great, they can kind of keep it afloat, right? Or they can even just do even better. And so with Justin, and I think this, the new coaching staff, he's going to be the offense is going to be tailored to him. He's going to have a very good defense. I don't know if it's top 10, but the potential's there. Now, if Robert Quinn's gone, who knows? But it's going to be a good defense no matter what. The secondary is going to be a lot better. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to get the ball in better, field position. And then with the new coaching staff, they're going to be able to, run the ball, right? Play action. Get Justin moving. You use his legs because he's one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league. He's got Lamar Jackson type, athleticism. And mm-hmm. So in my opinion, this offense, I think it's going to be a lot better than what people are expecting, just because they kind of remember Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky, all these recent struggles. And I think with Trubisky or with Fields, he's entirely different, man. We saw some of those flashes last year, And now that he's be more comfortable, he's going to get all the reps with the ones. It's just going to be different, and his confidence, once he keeps building on it, I think that's when we're going to start seeing that Ohio State quarterback, make that transition to the NFL. So we'll see.
Quarterback play we've never seen in a Chicago Bears uniform.
I would be shocked. I would be so shocked if he does not get over 4,000, passing yards in his career. I think he's going to be the guy to break that record just because, modern day NFL. But on top of that, I think he just has the tools, man. I really do.
So I've seen a lot of DK Metcalf on your Twitter timeline too. Why do you think he's such a good fit with Fields? And what do you think it would take for the Bears to get Metcalf?
Yeah, I love DK. I think I've loved him since he came to the league. He's obviously big, fast. Now his route trees, some people don't like it. Some people think he's like a one hit wonder, basically just
one trick pony, but it's like that's a pretty sweet trick that he's got. So.
In 3 years, he has like almost over 30 plus touchdowns. That's 10 plus year. He's huge. Justin he's very accurate, right? And we see what he does with Mooney. And there's been plays last year where I'm just like, oh, if Mooney was just a little bit taller, because he puts that ball higher where no one else can get it besides his receiver. And sometimes last year we had a very small receiving core. Like as far as height goes. And this year, I think we have, I don't know what the average height is, but it's bigger, a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And so with Justin being accurate, being the quarterback that he is, kind of with Jay, it's very similar to Jay Cutler when he got Brandon Marshall, those first 2 years where it was just tremendous for him, and DK is huge. He's big, but he's young. He's fast. He can go up and get the ball, pair him with Mooney, and then you got Velez, you got Byron Pringle. I just think that right there would make sense because you need to give Justin help right now. Obviously, if you go into with the skill players right now, I think it's going to be a very average year, if not a little bit less.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, next year, obviously the way that these receivers are coming out, very, very good. Like the likelihood of the Bears having a top 10 pick next year is very high, which is, depending how the year goes with Justin. If Justin develops and we win 5 games, we see that development and he's our guy, that's a win. That's a good season.
Yeah.
But right now it's like, do you want to go with the 24-year-old who is proven, who can score touchdowns, who has, a ton of time? He hasn't hit his prime yet, right? So if you send over a first and maybe like maybe like a first and a second, or a first this year and a second next year or something like that, I think it gets a deal done. But obviously DK is a very, very good player. I think Seattle's obviously wants him around for the rebuild, but they also don't. DK, he wants the contract.
Not
right?
going to pay him. Yeah.
He wants the bag. And the Bears obviously have a lot of money right now, but next year they're first in the league by like over 20 million. So if they were to get DK, they could put a lot of that money next year, or put it this year. They can front load the deal and still have a tremendous wiggle room with the cap, right? So with DK, you can get him because he's probably going to want, to be paid, but also does he want to stay in Seattle for a rebuild? He doesn't have Russell Wilson now, right? I think he has
Drew Lock, right? No, he's got Drew Lock from Denver, right?
Yeah, Drew Lock, and I think it's like a QB battle over there.
Garbage is what he's got. He's got garbage.
Yeah.
So and now is Justin the guy? Is he like a top 10 quarterback? No, but I mean, if you ask DK right now, who would you rather play with? I think it's very simple, right?
Yeah.
He probably sees a lot in Fields, right? A lot of potential. Saw him at Ohio State. So I think with DK getting him, you're giving up. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, the first. You don't want to give up the first next year, right? Because it's fun to have a first round pick. But DK and whoever we pick next year is not a guarantee.
Yeah, tell that to the Rams. They don't care about those.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're a little bit different. They're competing for Super Bowls. We're trying to beat the Packers and win the division here. Start low. But like I said, in my opinion, is like back to like Kevin White. Obviously that was injuries, right? But you never know with a first rounder. It's not a guarantee, especially with the Bears and our track record, So with DK, it's like, okay, we know what he's getting. You pair him with Mooney. And I think that right there with Velez, depending on how great he is, man, I think it could be very interesting. And it could also help fill a need right now, and it could help jumpstart and help alleviate some of those struggles and the pain, of Justin.
The growing pains. Yeah. I think it's something you got to do. You got to support him, right? Like if he's your future franchise quarterback, surround him with talent. Otherwise he's going to get his ass kicked and get sacked too many times and see ghosts out there.
And we're talking about like the rookie quarterback window, one of the most important things, one of the best tools in football, right, is having a quarterback on a rookie deal. Take advantage of that.
Right.
Now, do you swing for DK? I don't know, but you have to swing. And it's a little disappointing that Poles, obviously he's taking his time, Fields wasn't necessarily his guy. He's still evaluating the roster. But do you swing on DK? Who do you go after? Right. And in my opinion, I don't know if they will, but if they don't, obviously next year, 2023 is going to be the season where it's like, okay, if Justin shows that he's the guy, shows some glimpses, then they're going to go all in 2023. Yeah. I would just like to see it now because I love DK. I love that fit with Fields, who needs a big body receiver. I love Mooney, but I mean, to pair him with another, to have Mooney have to deal with that, and then also DK, I think is just a headache, man. And then you have the physical tools that would come with Justin and his legs.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just something that
you've been thinking about DK Metcalf on the Bears for a long time.
Yeah, man. I've had conversations with friends, and like I said, I've asked about what the capital, what would it take? I've gotten a few different answers. And I'm like, one, I'm like, no, do it. I don't care. It's like, I really enjoy it. Now you don't give up 2 firsts. That's ridiculous. But a first, a second, I think that's easy. Now I'm not a GM and for good reason, but so that's my take on that.
That'd be wild. That would remind me of like the day we got Cutler in that trade. It was like one of the biggest like transactions in Bears in my life in Bears history.
The Mac trade too.
Yeah, and then the Khalil Mack. Yeah, like that would be up there.
Mac was definitely up there.
Yeah, that was great. So you got them. You said about 5 games next year. Like they're not going to be great growing pains.
I'm very positive. I'm thinking with that schedule too, and it's like if Fields takes that leap. Just that basically takes just another step forward with his tools and what the talent that he possesses. I think it could be 5 to 8. I would love for 8. That would be such an improvement, especially with the roster around him. It would just show that he is the guy. Because if we get 8 wins, it's because of Justin being Justin, being the guy that we all envision him to be and want him to be. So obviously, I think. Worst case scenario could be really bad. Could be. I think we're going to win more than 3 games. I've seen a projection or something. I don't know where it was. Maybe ESPN.
Louis Riddick was saying we're going to be the worst team in the league.
Was that where it was?
I think so. Yeah, I think he was saying the Bears are going to be the worst.
What that was about? It doesn't make sense to me because like he was on record saying he believes in Justin. I'm like, if you believe in Justin, there's no way we're going to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah. Right.
No, like obviously he doesn't have. He is a great roster. No, but like there's been plenty of great quarterbacks who have had. Didn't inherit great, rosters to begin with in their career. They stayed afloat. They still showed flashes, still had like a crazy, touchdown to interception ratio with like 4,400 yards. And you bring in, like I said, I think the new coaching staff is being very underlooked because that offense, the defense is going to be fast. It's going to be swarming the ball. There's going to be turnovers. They invested in it, but also the offense is just going to be, they have refs at OTAs. They're going to clean up the penalties. It's going to be a very disciplined team, young team. They're very, very young, which means they're going to be fast. They're going to be competing every single week, every snap. There's going to be no receivers jogging. There's going to be no running backs, taking it easy. The line's going to be obviously very scary situation with. I
like the new staff. I like what they're doing. They're coming in. They're kind of like dropping the hammer, and they're like, all right, what was last year is never going to happen here again.
Absolutely, and we need that. And so that's why I'm like that right there is like a game or two. Like in my opinion, seriously. Especially with that schedule. Obviously you never know how everything's going to fall with injuries. But in my opinion, like I said, with the schedule, with everything, all the variables. I don't think we're going to be the worst team in the league,
Yeah, definitely not. So let's transition from one, Chicago building block in Justin Fields to another, Patrick Williams on the Bulls. There's been a lot of talk about him.
Wow, building block.
Hey, he was a top 5 pick. Okay. He's not my building.
Yeah. Okay.
Block, but he's a lot of people's. And I think, Dave, you said this Patrick Williams for Vucevic trade for Rudy Gobert, which a lot of people are talking about. You are against this. Give us your pitch for why the
wrote
Bulls
about
shouldn't
it.
do this.
I wrote about it a couple of weeks when that first like nugget dropped that they were interested in Rudy Gobert, and I was like, Rudy Gobert. Like, I know he is.
Started COVID.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, wow, a long time ago. It feels like forever ago, but it wasn't. It was like what, 2 years ago.
It doesn't matter.
Anyways, this is where it is. This is interesting because like I wrote about it and I try to go from both perspectives. Rudy Gobert, obviously defensive wizard, one of the best we've ever seen. 3-time defensive player of the year. And then you got Vooch, right? Interesting, how he played, last couple of year and a half. Kind of reminded me of like when we got Boozer. I was like, but Vooch, obviously, I think just last year where he just couldn't hit the 3-ball consistently and do some of those things he did when he was in Orlando.
Yeah.
Disappointing, right? And so with Rudy, it's like we need defense. Obviously, the Bulls. We got a lot of scoring. I think when Zach comes back, and I think we're maxing him out, obviously. And I think with Lonzo, who just transforms this team, especially transition. So you get Lonzo, throwing oops to Rudy, on pick and rolls. I think that's crazy. To think about,
just
right?
hope that knee's okay, Lonzo.
That's true, man. Like health, and literally this health is going to be a huge factor with both, especially if we bring Levine back. He's having surgery. Like these guys have to stay healthy. But they're all relatively young, and Rudy's a little bit older. He's due a lot of money over these next like 3 years, like a lot. Like I think it's like 40 million, like on average per year, which is just a lot to pay for a guy that doesn't necessarily like bring a lot of offense. And so that scares me. But the defensive part is what like obviously is very enticing. So in my opinion, I think if you can do Vooch and like Kobe White for Rudy, I think you do
all day.
Really do.
All day.
I don't know that.
I love Kobe White. Like I just really do like him, obviously. But I think as far as a piece goes, I think him and Vooch.
He's
Vooch
very dispensable.
Vooch is going to be in the deal no matter what, right? So Vooch and Kobe, I think that's great. Rudy is just the only thing that scares me is a lot of money, and he's a little bit older. But he's also a double-double. He's literally a walking. I think he has like 13 plus rebounds a game.
The blocks too.
Per game.
Yep.
And and then also everything that doesn't show up on the stat sheet is extremely valuable. So I think
so you want Rudy?
Yeah. Now Patrick Williams, like I said, that's tough for me because it's weird because a lot of fans, us like to bank on potential, right? But GMs can't do that. They don't have that luxury to be like, oh, we're gonna wait. So with Patrick Williams, like I'll be honest, like sometimes I just want him to be more aggressive, and I just don't see it. I don't know if that's in his personality.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like in the makeup of his game. Like I want a dog, right? I
have that killer instinct. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't seen that yet.
Like, he's younger than me, man. He's like he just turned 20. So I'm like,
he could be the number one pick in this draft if he was still like he's the age of a lot of the draft picks this year, and we got 2 years NBA experience under his belt.
And he's young, and there's other options out there, right? There's Mitchell Robinson, right?
I would like that. John Collins. Yeah, we put a tweet out the other day. It was like, what would you think of the Bulls starting lineup being John Collins, Rudy Gobert, Lonzo, Zach, and DeRozan? And a couple of the comments were like, that would never happen. And one guy was like, obviously with NBA contracts, like you're seeing these cap wizards come out and they're signing and trading. They're figuring out ways to make it work. One guy was like, well, that's probably just a one championship team. And that's that, like the Celtics and the big three. And I was like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Like, give me like, what are we doing here? Like, if you could say that's a championship team, let's do it. Like,
can't you always make the money work, right? Like
you could always do it. I mean, no contract is untradeable. I feel like in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, the cap is a myth in a lot of, especially the NBA, NFL. Man, like I said, I think it's just a no-brainer. It's just like I get scared, when you make those are big deals, big leaps. You're banking on a lot of things to go right. And with Rudy, like I said, not very often you get a guy like with that defensive makeup, like ever. And then to pair him with like Levine, DeRozan, Lonzo, like it's just awesome. Now, as far as like, a deal with, including Patrick, if it's Vooch and Patrick Williams, I think that's a huge overpay. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's a little much. I think it's a lot. I just don't think you could do it because Vooch is still Vooch, and he could have a bounce back year next year where he's just back to.
He's like AK's guy too. I don't. It would be a lot for AK to give him away.
Yeah, and then there was a report. I think Greenberg was like yesterday or like either today. He tweets so much I don't even know, but like it was about what did he say? He said that he's expecting
PJ
to,
Tucker, they were.
no, Vooch was expecting to stay in Chicago.
Yeah, to sign an extension.
Yeah. So I'm like, what does that mean? You know,
I think that was via Draft Express or something like that.
Okay, yeah, might have been there. So I'm just like, that's interesting. You know, it's like he expects to stay. Obviously, you know, it's a business, so you never know. But like, if you give up Vooch and Williams, like Vooch could still be he still has like 2, 3, maybe 4 years, you know, left of like being pretty good. And then you got Williams, like if he turns into like an all-star, like that could be horrible, like as far as like trade value goes, because you got Rudy maybe has 3 years of like where he's actually really good, still in that like top echelon of like just defensive players, and then also you know contributing on the rebounds and then I think he averages like maybe 14 a game.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at the finals this year, if the Bulls get a guy like Robert Williams with the 18th pick this year, who's a viable option, backup center, backup power forward, that is just that energy type of pick and roll rim defender player who's just like maybe you're like, that is why, trading Vooch and Williams might be very detrimental to the team.
Keep your first. So if they did that, they would keep their first, get Rudy, pick. Still maybe package
Kobe and somebody else for like a bench wing or maybe like we sign a PJ Tucker to an okay deal and have them as a big kind of, you know, spot up shooting big, but also like
they have to
shake it up. The tone. They got to shake up something.
They got to shake it up.
I mean, it's NBA offseason, right? It's the craziest offseason of any sport.
They're going to shake it up. It is going to be. I think the draft is Thursday.
This Thursday.
There's Thursday. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's in 2 days.
It's gonna be interesting. I think the deal could be done. Is it tomorrow, Wednesday? 48 hours. We'll have to have another pod. Like if something crazy happens, like that's crazy, man. Like I would love to see the Bulls shake it up, but I just hope they do it in a good way, right? Like obviously you can't predict, but like the fact that they're going all out. I love AK and how he's always gunning. You know, especially with this team. Like it's interesting. He stay healthy. If Lonzo's knee's good. Levine stays out. DeRozan, obviously, it's gonna be hard to top last year, but I don't think he's gonna regress that much, especially the way that he plays.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance, man. Especially if
it's open, man. Celtics going to the final. I think all the GMs are like, okay, if they can go to the final with that roster.
I think Milwaukee's still gonna be an issue. You know, Giannis, Chris Middleton. I think honestly, I don't think Boston gets there if Chris is healthy. I don't think they win that series. I think it went 7 without him, right? So I just don't see it. I don't think there's a way that Milwaukee actually loses. And I still think Milwaukee would have lost in the finals, but you never know with Giannis. So I think with Giannis being, you know, in Milwaukee, I think that's always going to be, you know, tough. But everyone else, I think Boston, they're going to probably regress. I don't believe Tatum's great. You know, is he a superstar? No, you know, he's just an all-star.
Yeah. Shined away from that light a little bit on the big stage.
Oh man, Andrew Wiggins locked him up. It's crazy. That was such a fun series.
Yeah, it was good stuff. All right, man. This has been like I feel like we could just go on all night, talk sports. We can go to the next team, talk Cubs, but we won't. Again, he's Runback Dave. Thanks so much for being here and spending your time with us. You can find his articles on sportsmockery.com. Go ahead and listen to his Runback pod on the Blue Wire Network as well. And you can follow him on Twitter at Runback Dave. Dave, thanks so much for being here.
I'll have to have you guys on the pod, both of you.
Sounds good, man.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to our guest, Runback Dave. Again, you can find him on Twitter at Runback Dave. Give him a follow. Dan, do you got a Would You Rather for us this week?
I do. Summer break's coming up, looking to travel, but I'll keep it domestic as we are domestic draft. Would you rather go for a weekend? Would you rather go to Vegas or New York City?
Ooh. I think it's Vegas for me. It's just.
It is?
I don't know. I think so. I live in the city now and the crowds and everything like that. And not to say Vegas doesn't have some.
To join the crowd in Vegas instead? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the strip in Vegas over Times Square. Right now, I think that's what I'm feeling. What about you?
Got it. I don't know. Initially, I think I go to New York City. I just I want to go experience the madness that is the biggest city, quote unquote, in America. Right?
Never been
where it happens. No, never been.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been through there when I was younger.
Okay.
But
all right. What about a fast fact? You got one?
I do. How many teams have never had? We've been talking about the NBA draft. How many teams have never had the number 1 overall pick?
10.
It's 6. actually. Denver, Indiana, Memphis, Miami, Oklahoma City, and Seattle,
Yeah.
and Utah. Those are the 6 franchises that have never had the number 1 overall pick.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Still 6 teams that haven't had it,
And they've won
all right.
championships. So,
Yeah, true. Thanks again to our guest, Runback Dave, for joining us today. That's our show. For Dan Sloak, I'm Evan Bierman. You've been listening to the Domestic Draft Podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to rate the show. You can find us on Twitter at Domestic Draft, on Instagram at Domestic Draft Podcast. Our website is domesticdraft.com. And you can watch the show on YouTube. Just search up Domestic Draft and drop us a sub. Thanks again for listening.
cheers.